So now after reviewing the first 4 Far Cry games, it was time to review Far Cry Primal. And I feel like Far Cry Primal is in a very weird situation. Like a lot of people kind of forget that it even exists. Obviously this can be because it's not called Far Cry 5 and people assume that it's kind of a small spin-off. And also when I read a lot of rankings to the Far Cry series, Far Cry Primal always ranks kind of in the lower middle. Like it's very rare to see Far Cry Primal in the top 3 of a Far Cry ranking. And especially for it being released in 2016, so right after Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, which were so amazing Far Cry games, obviously it would be kind of hard to top that. But now after completing the game, I am very much surprised of how great Far Cry Primal really was. So the game is set in prehistoric times where you play as a hunter called Takkar, trying to survive in a very dangerous world that is filled with predators and rival tribes. And firstly I have to talk to you guys about the setting of the game. Like when were we ever able to really discover the prehistoric times? I mean, it's such an interesting topic that really hasn't been explored yet in video games. And here Far Cry Primal really sets itself apart from the other Far Cry games. I mean, Far Cry 4 was kind of different to the first 3 games, but now this one is something completely different. You know, not once in the game you hear a gunshot or you hear a helicopter rising above you. And the prehistoric environment and the use of those primitive weapons and tools really create a very engaging gameplay experience. Like, you know, the landscape and the land of Oros is so beautiful, and I really love the open world that is kind of untouched by people yet and by civilization. Like sometimes when I was roaming through Oros, it kind of reminded me of meditating. Because firstly it's so peaceful to roam through the world when no predator is attacking you, and you know, focusing more on the simple things like, you know, do I have enough slate or do I have enough of this plant was so different. Like you have to understand, money didn't exist back then obviously, so the only thing you can really collect are natural materials. And also the sound design in the game is really top notch. Like when you walk through the open world and you close your eyes, you literally could imagine being in a prehistoric world. But instead of me talking, I'll just show you a clip that you understand what I'm talking about. Like, do you understand what I mean? You know, there are no cars, no gunshots, no music even. You know, it's literally just Mother Nature and nothing else. And you know, I find the open world so special that this is the first Far Cry game that I literally discovered every single question mark on the map. I discovered every single campfire and I've done every single quest and side quest available. You know, just being able to discover and see how our ancestors used to live was so special for me that I was really engaged in the open world. And one good extra that you have in the game is that you actually have to discover the open world to also clear the fog on the map. You know, in previous Far Cry games, you had to climb certain stations in order to clear the fog on the map on that specific part. But in Far Cry Primal it's actually different. Like you literally have to discover the map itself, and only when you walk or discover the open world, a small radius around you will clear on the map, but you actually have to discover it yourself. And now obviously we speak about ancestral times here, so we didn't have any cars and we didn't have any helicopters like in earlier games to transport. The only way you can move from A to B is either through fast travel, when you have claimed the bonfires for your own tribe, the Winja, or later in the game you're also able to actually tame prehistoric animals. And some of them are actually rideable, and that way you can move faster in the world. And you know, the taming of the animals really I feel like is a mixed thing. Because on the one hand I find it really great that you're actually able to have your own companions with you all along, but on the other hand the game becomes kind of easy when you have your saber-tooth or when you have your bears. But I found a very good sweet spot for that. Like when I was clearing the outpost or going into enemy territory, I always sent my beast back and cleared the outposts myself. But I'm going to tell you, it's really great to have your own goddamn saber-toothed tiger, and that will absolutely maul enemies if you tell him to do so. You know, I found it very interesting how realistic this game got, because if you do not have a beast beside you and you roam through the world, especially at night, like almost every 100 meters you'll have some wolves, you'll have some bears or some saber-toothed tigers that will attack you. But if you actually have a beast tamed beside you, it's really nice to see that they're actually afraid. Especially the wolves, they run away immediately, and the bigger your predator gets, the more afraid other animals are actually of it. And besides that, small things when it comes to the animals, like for example the wolves, mostly do not attack you when you're standing in front of them. They mostly only attack you from behind. Same thing is that they're only seen in packs. You can rarely discover a lone wolf in the world. Not like cave lions or like bears that mostly hunt alone. So the game also is really realistic when it comes to the wildlife. And you know, in previous Far Cry games, you used to have your binoculars to tag enemies and to see them. But obviously, binoculars didn't exist 10,000 years before Christ. So this game firstly introduces the owl. So an animal like that was even introduced before it got included into Assassin's Creed. And you can even upgrade your owl so that it is able to attack enemies or to throw down fire or bee bombs, which is actually very satisfying. So as you probably might notice, the setting of the game was really something else for me, and I think it was actually my favorite setting up to date. I even liked it more than Far Cry 4. Now obviously this is a very personal thing, but being able to explore this ancestral world was really something special for me. And you know, when it comes to the game's storyline, I mean, this is very different than in other modern video games, because you know, usually you have your quest log, you have your side quests, you have your main quests, but here you don't have something like that. You don't have your quest in a specific tab so you can go through them. You only have your map, and the quests are added to the map menu. So you know, every important side character actually has their icon, and if there is a quest for them, it shows on the map, and you have to navigate the tasks you have to do differently than in previous games. And you know, the characters as well as the protagonists and the antagonists are quite fleshed out. You know, they are not on Pagan Min or on Vast level, but they're still quite well developed, making for an engaging and quite emotionally satisfying experience. And you know, another gameplay mechanic that the game adds is that Far Cry Primal isn't only an open world RPG game, but it's also kind of a village builder. Like, you have your own tribe village that belongs to the Winja, and you yourself can upgrade the huts in there. You can recruit new people for your village, and through recruiting new people, you'll actually be able to learn new skills or craft new things you learn from them. And you know, every day some resources are deployed by your tribe members into your stash that you can pick up yourself. And I really liked the village builder. I mean, in Far Cry 4, you know, you already had the residence of Ajay Gale, and you could upgrade some things in there, but in Far Cry Primal it's much more fleshed out actually. You know, you have to gather resources in order to be able to upgrade your huts. You need to have a certain population to even be able to do that. And you know, it's nice to have a place that you call home, and where you have people that you actually helped. And you know, the characters in the game are also so goddamn diverse. Like, you meet so many different people, you know, some of them being quite wise and intelligent, while others are quite crazy and weird actually. Also in the game there is a character called Urki that actually has a more American accent in the ancestral language that I have in real English.
Urki San Patra.
San Patra. San Patra.
And you know, if you're gonna play the game, or if you already have, you know that this man's quests are actually something different. And you know, because Far Cry Primal is such an ancestral game that is based 12,000 years ago, obviously there is a way bigger focus on gathering and hunting. And you know, there are some gameplay mechanics that are new that haven't been in Far Cry games up to this point. For example, you have the hunter vision that is included in the game. And you guys, you have to know that this game, as I said, came out in 2016. And you know, 1 year before that, we had the release of the most magnificent, incredible... Okay, I'll stop. With the release of The Witcher 3. And you know, video game developers tried to copy some things from The Witcher 3. So in Far Cry Primal, the hunter vision is actually what we have in The Witcher as the Witcher vision. Where in some quests there are some trails that you have to follow. Or if you're hunting some beast and you wound it enough, it will run away and try to hide, but the blood that it loses on the way will actually lead you to its location. And you know, also there's a vast array of crafting options, like you can craft better bows, you can craft better spears or better bombs, and there's also a very big skill tree where each character has their own attributes. Like for example, Takkar's skins are focused more on combat, while other skills are focused on gathering or on crafting. And on the side quests in the game, so the orange icons on the map, Like in my opinion, after some time, some of them get quite repetitive, but obviously this is normal in modern video games, and it didn't bother me as much because they don't take as much time. Like the whole game took me 20 hours to complete it to 100%, so it's rather a short experience even for a Far Cry game. And if you're just roaming through the world of Oros, you really need to watch out because the animals will kill you very quickly. Like when a goddamn mammoth is running at you, you know that you probably are going to die if you don't kill it quickly. You know, 2 or 3 hits from some of the bigger animals and you're dead immediately. And another nice thing that I found is that I feel that the game really rewards stealth more. And in my opinion, it's really just more fun to be stealthy in the game. This game also includes the death from above takedown, which I absolutely loved. Like I had some scenes that could literally go into a Hollywood movie where I jumped down like 10 meters on the head of an enemy and killed it with this specific takedown. And you know, as in every Far Cry game, the outposts are so fun and they're one of my favorite activities that you can do in Far Cry, and they really nailed them also in this one. One weird thing that I found in the game is that some side activities that pop up nearby, like where you have to help some Winja or where you have to kill some invaders, like they're actually marked with the same sign as the main quests. Like that was really weird for me, and it confused me quite a bit in the beginning, but all in all also not a very big deal. So in conclusion, I just have to say that Far Cry Primal is such a unique and engaging game that it is definitely worth playing. You know, you have a setting that you haven't discovered like that in any video game up to date. You know, you have well developed characters and a varied gameplay that really make the game a standout title for me in the Far Cry series. And in general, I would recommend this game to literally anybody, and it is definitely one of my favorite Far Cry games. So now guys, I'm really interested in your opinions on Far Cry Primal, because as I said in the beginning, when I look at rankings, like especially now, I'm really surprised that Far Cry Primal always ranks quite low. Like, is it just so massively underrated, or what are your guys' opinions? Please write them down in the comments. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next video. I wish you an amazing day. Bye bye.